Welcome to a special edition of the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast with your hosts, Dan and Dawna Wilson. We're covering some breaking news out of Kootenai County today. We had a legislative town hall hosted by the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, and there was a bit of a debacle in that situation today. So we're bringing on some eyewitnesses and showing video footage from that event. We'll also be taking your calls within the program. That number is 208-366-4671 if you want to get in the queue for a phone call. If you were there, you bore witness to something that happened, or you got questions or comments, 208-366-4671. And now here's Dan.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It is February 22nd, 2025. And yes, we are going to live stream quickly with a couple witnesses that were there at this Kootenai County Republican Central Committee Town Hall. Now, these town halls are held every month during the legislative session. It's a time for the legislators to get up and give us an update as to what legislation that they are working on, things that have taken place, and a chance for the constituents of the county to be able to ask. Now, I want to remind folks that even though the Republican Central Committee puts this on, these legislators are everyone's legislator right here in the county. That means that those that are not Republican, that are not part of the Central Committee, are open to being able to come and to listen and ask the questions. Remember, Congress shall make no laws establishing any religion nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof, the rights of the people in speech and press, and to assemble peacefully is a guaranteed right. But what happens when a assembly becomes less than orderly? Well, that's what happened today. Now, normally these town halls are held throughout the county at various events to include churches, schools, and other venues. Today, it was held at the Coeur d'Alene High School, and we hear that there's about 500 folks that attended. So we have today joining us Mark Stewart, who is part of the Republican Central Committee, the KCRCC. He's one of the new PCs. We have Michael Bras, who worked with my campaign back in 2024, and we have Quincy Franklin, the BC preacher. All three are going to give us a little bit of an update on what they saw and what they experienced. We're going to throw in some videos, but I'm going to first turn this over to Mark Stewart. Mark, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And can you tell us really kind of how the event unfolded and what you observed?
Well, it was like you said, at Coeur d'Alene High School, and we had about 500 people show up, and it was great. It was going really well. There was a little bit of tension there. Just you could tell that not everybody was a Republican that had showed up, but in the crowd was pretty respectful. And then there started some heckling going on by maybe a half dozen people. And it just kind of escalated from there, and it just spiraled out of control. And before I knew it, there was a protester who was being dragged out of the building, and literally was 5 feet away from me when they were dragging her out the door. So it was just crazy.
How long into the program was it before this disruption took place?
Gosh, I want to say about a half an hour in. I mean, there was some heckling going on pretty early on, but then it kind of just escalated. So I wasn't really looking at my phone to see the exact time, because I was listening to the legislative folks giving their updates and what was going on. So I wasn't paying super close attention to that. But it was just like, whoa, this is really happening. And it was a really tense situation. I felt like there was a chance that it could have just devolved into our all-out riot. I mean, it was nuts.
So I want to make certain that those that are watching and myself understand. This event took place at approximately 12:30 p.m.
Yeah, started at 12:30. Yeah.
And for about the first half hour, nothing happened. Were there any ground rules? I understand that the MC was local Ed Bajarana, who MCs certain KCRCC and Republican events, but did he set any rules down? Was there any expectations as far as how the event was going to be run?
It was pretty loose as far as those rules. There were some signs up, because I taped them on the door myself that said, we want, appropriate behavior, respectful, all that kind of stuff before people walked in. So that was kind of hopefully set the tone, but obviously it didn't. But there were some signs up, and then Ed, he kind of explained what was going on, but he, in my view, I think he helped contribute to the madness a little bit because he wanted to engage the objector, and just it just didn't handle it the best. I think he made it personal, and then it just went downhill from there.
What was the security like at the event? Was there any uniformed deputies? Was there uniformed Coeur d'Alene police?
I'm going to try showing a little bit of this video on mute while you guys are talking. Okay. I'll try. Continue.
So from my perspective, I'm on the legislative subcommittee in the KCRCC. And so and I worked with the school as far as getting the building secured. And one of their questions was, what's the security? And I was told by the KCRCC that it was just going to be Sheriff Norris was going to be there. And there wasn't a lot of concern. But then when I got there today, it was pretty apparent that there was security there, but they weren't identified as who they were. They weren't wearing security outfits or anything like that. But Sheriff Norris was working with them in concert. I mean, I observed a lot of that where they were kind of there, and I saw Commissioner Matari was there, and they were all kind of doing things. And so it wasn't really clear, but they weren't wearing like security outfits or anything like that. They were just pretty much all black, and they had the little earbuds, and they were in the aisles and kind of around the X's, but it wasn't really clear who they were or any of that. So
nothing to really identify them as being any kind of authority.
Not really. You could tell that they were there to keep order, but you didn't really know who they were.
Sure. Okay. Mark,
we're not taking into account the people sitting.
Mark, we're going to put you on hold right here. Stay with us. We're going to bring in Quincy Franklin, the BC preacher. Quincy, you happened to be there during this event as well. It sounds like you got there pretty close to when the chaos erupted. What did you observe, my friend?
Basically everything I filmed there is what I observed. I walked in, and probably about 3 minutes later, I heard a lady starting to shout, toward the stage, and other people were as well. I mean, people were in disagreement. I mean, you have something like this, and that's, to me, in my opinion, it's expected. But as she kept going, I saw a few of the people, like the gentleman just said, they looked like they were some sort of security. They didn't look like they were deputies. They didn't have no real uniforms on, any like IDs or badges or anything like that. They went toward the lady and started talking to her. I know the sheriff, Bob Norris, he went over to her and actually was, I think, probably the first one that really started to deal with her and speak to her. He then backed away. And then these other gentlemen started really grabbing on her and trying to pull on her. She's asking Norris, are these your deputies? There was no response. There was no answer in regards to that. They kept on, getting her up. They actually got her up, and 3 men were on her. And I mean, it was a mess. And other people were yelling, of course, but, they were really focused on her. There was another gentleman that got escorted out as well, which I have that on video also. I have a good 15 minutes of the whole interaction.
In the comments section, I'm going to put the link to Quincy's full video. Like he was just saying, you've got a little bit over 15 minutes of footage there.
So I've been observing a little bit of the reporting online, Quincy, that is emerging on X primarily. And of course, the status right now of those that are discussing it on the conservative side are really lambasting this lady and possibly other disruptors that were there. They're, gloating on the fact that this is what happens when you get leftists that come and disrupt our local, functions. When you see that take place today, how many people were really agitators versus this one lady? And then what was this lady really spun up about?
I mean, I don't know what she was spun up about, because I'm like I said, I wasn't there from the beginning, so I don't know how much was going on prior to that particular situation. There were people, like I said, in the crowd voicing their opinions. There were some people that had signs, but again, I mean, you have something like this, and to me, where I come from, it's expected. I mean, if we're talking about freedom of speech, whatever. I mean, it's a I guess it could be a tricky or tough situation, but I don't think that they weren't a threat. I'll put it that way. In my opinion, from what I've experienced and from what I saw today, there was nothing there that was like, oh my goodness, she's a threat.
Okay.
I don't know about any other rumors that are flying around. I don't know, but I'm just saying from what I experienced, there was nothing to be fearful about. It didn't look like she was a threat or anybody around with signs or who were voicing things.
Michael Bross, we're going to bring you on here in just a quick second. Before that, we're going to play a video that we have observed from Dave Riley that he posted on X. We're going to play a little bit of that video for a couple seconds just to kind of get the flavor. Then we're going to bring Michael Bross on, and Mark Stewart, if you can stand by, we're going to get some more comment from you as well. So let's go ahead and play that video.
When our nation began, there was some really, really contentious times. No, I'm not recognizing you. So, yes, we're going to get to him. We're going to get to him. I promise. We'll give him plenty of chances. But, you know, the problem is the folks... Oh, look at that. Oh, he's showing how intelligent he is with all of his hard words that he's asking. This was the mission that came here to disrupt so that the citizens can't hear. The reality is there's a whole bunch of great things that are happening. The problem is we got a bunch of rabble-rousers who just won't allow it to be spoken. So, you know, the thing is, what I'm doing up here is I'm simply over-talking you because your voice is meaningless right now. And we're just taking care of the rabble-rousers. And eventually what's going to happen is everything's going to settle down and we'll get back to hearing the legislators. Because really, you didn't come here to listen to me. I just happen to have a nice loud voice and a big microphone. And I can talk over all of you. And I can just talk for on and on and on. And look at this little girl is afraid to leave. She spoke up, and now she doesn't want to suffer the consequences. Isn't that the problem that we're struggling with so many of the kids today? Is they want to behave poorly and then not struggle with the consequences.
Okay.
That is shameful.
So what we just observed is approximately, according to the reports that Mark Stewart was relaying to us, approximately 30 minutes into this town hall, this lady began to disrupt and protest, not exactly certain what her protest was about. There appeared to be a couple other actors inside the crowd that got up and were yelling and screaming. Again, not certain what they said, but Ed Bajarana, that is the acting MC, said a couple interesting things that I want you guys to listen to. He said, your voice is meaningless right now to the protesters, and that he needed to be louder than them at the moment. And this little girl now is afraid to get up and move after she caused a scene. Paraphrasing. Michael Bross, you were there, it sounds like pretty early on. Can you give us kind of a feel for what this lady was upset about?
Yeah, I was there from the start, and right from the start, Ed, the MC, began by saying that this was a privately sponsored event with private security. So the KCRCC seemed to anticipate some level of chaos. What seemed to get the protesters agitated was when the state legislators started talking about making DOGE type of budget and legislative cuts to Idaho. That seemed to trigger their jeering, and then that resulted in several different physical altercations between protesters and security. Pretty much from the start, the event was very rowdy, with lots of yelling from the crowd and expletives being thrown out. There was private security. I noticed 4 unmarked private security guys, and after things started to get rowdy, I think deputies were called in for backup. At which point I saw Sheriff Norris and another deputy dragging a protester out of the event. We were informed by the MC that one of the guards was injured and needed medical attention. So he is in our prayers tonight.
Great. So you said that it looked like that the private security was there. They sort of started to act, but the crowd was informed from the beginning that there was going to be that the private security was there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And so when this event where the lady protesting over Doge or whatever it was that she was upset about it, again, we have to have orderliness in our meetings. It has to be fair. It has to be, we have to be respectful of everyone. From what I've seen so far, nothing that she has done would indicate that she was playing by the rules and she was being disruptive. She does not have a right to be disruptive in that format. But you said that you saw at one point Sheriff Norris go over to this lady, if I understood you correctly, and then you said deputies showed up. Were they identifiable by Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, or were these Coeur d'Alene police officers?
There were both CDA PD and Kootenai County Sheriff's Office deputies there. I didn't see CDA PD inside of the event. It was just private security and sheriff's deputies and Sheriff Norris as well.
But they weren't on scene to begin with, just the private security.
Sheriff Norris was there from the start. He actually led the Pledge of Allegiance. But
none of his deputies.
I did not see deputies there initially, no.
Okay. Mark Stewart, once again, you were there. You, I believe, are on the, what'd you say, the legislative committee of the KCRCC. What is that committee?
That committee actually plans these kind of town halls, and they do other things with when members bring resolutions forth. They look at those and review them for grammatical stuff and just trying to make sure that they're in the right format. But a big part of what we do are the town halls and making sure that those go off. And they had one in November and they had one today, and there's another one planned in March as well. So there's a lot of logistics trying to make sure everything goes off smoothly. And in this case, it didn't.
Were you guys at all concerned going into this event that there might be the level of protest that ended up happening?
It's a good question. I don't think there was a ton of concern. I mean, there were some questions about security, and I was told, hey, Norris is going to be there. And there wasn't like a major worry. I know the school district asked me specifically if we planned on having security there. And I told them what I knew, which was Norris was going to be there. And I was unaware that there was going to be additional folks there. And so that was a little bit of a surprise to me that they were there. But and I also learned at the event that Jordan Redmond had received some threats, a bomb threat or something on social media. And so that it didn't totally shock me that was there, just because they're trying to protect a legislative person. So
sure.
It didn't seem totally out of order.
At what time did he receive that threat? Do you know? I
don't know the details of that. I don't know when he got that, but people were talking about, oh yeah, there was a lot of social media chatter about that on Reddit and some other places. And then I saw on social media that there was a gentleman in Hayden, actually, that the SWAT team was dispatched to go deal with him. So I don't know whatever happened with that. I haven't heard yet, but there was a threat made. And so to me, it was like, well, that kind of makes sense why we'd have some extra security there.
Mm-hmm. But no uniform PD, which is frankly shocking to me.
Yeah, there was no PD there. They showed up later. I mean, they were in the lobby later, and they were kind of with the woman who was dragged out with her for a while. And then when I went outside afterwards, there was a number of PD cars out there, and they were just kind of hanging out, but they weren't in the building at that point. So. And there was a couple sheriff cars there too.
But that was after the event, not prior to the event. Yeah.
Right.
So having worked these events many times over the years, in large events and small events, we always had uniform PD or deputies inside, not only as a deterrent, but also because, things do happen rapidly and you want uniform, identifiable, authority there to be able to take care of issues that arise. Now, we were informed that Summer Bushnell had reported that there was threats, that they were concerned that there was going to be agitators there. I think we're going to put that up on the screen if Donna has that ready.
Yeah, I just did put that up on the screen. You can see that she had heard from people that there was planning to cause trouble on purpose. So this was definitely something that was being discussed prior to the event. I also want, before Dan continues, just to let you know, we have a caller in the queue. I noticed we were getting some additional phone calls, and we will get to those in order. So if you called and were let down, that's why we got a call in the queue.
Let's
So
go ahead and take that call right now.
all right. Okay. Hey, Ed, are you there? He might have given up on us. Maybe he put it on mute.
Ed, are you there? Give it just another quick second. Yeah, so having worked a lot of these events over the years, not only in official capacity as law enforcement, but also as private security, especially when there are known threats, you tend to stack up your troops, so to speak, inside in order to have that unified front and to be able to respond quickly. One of the problems that you have in these situations, especially if law enforcement is not already there, if they're not familiar with who the private security is, especially if there's no identifiers on the security, when they arrive on scene and chaos is ensuing, responding officers do not know who is the good guy and who is the bad guy. So it seems very, very odd to me that Coeur d'Alene, where this event took place, did not have uniforms. I don't know if it was, again, lack of oversight, but if Sheriff Norris was there, especially since, he has talked numerous times about being involved in all sorts of major events from the Rodney King riots and so on and so forth, that he would have a pretty good handle on, events that are going to be contentious, especially in Coeur d'Alene, where that there are a heavier presence of those that are on the opposite side politically of the fence, that you would have, readily resources available. So it's odd to me that there wasn't more Coeur d'Alene PD and or because the deputies, frankly, could have been there as well. Do you think it might have been a money issue, Mark? Is the KCRCC responsible for paying for the security, or who paid for the security?
I don't know. That's not clear to me. So I can't answer that question, and I hate to speculate on it, but
sure.
It's, I think it was a good event, even though we had the disruption. I really do feel that, because those legislative folks were able to talk about what they're doing, right? I mean, there were some interruptions and all of that. And I think you're going to get that anytime you open it up to the public. But it's important. And I think a lot of times those protesters, they kind of reveal who they are, right? Yeah. It's like, if you're going to be a jerk, well, people aren't going to really listen to you. So I think it was just good to have them there. And one of the things I really respected were all the legislative people, they kind of cleared the stage at one point when it was getting really tense, but they came back. Nobody took off, and they were calm, and they did a really good job. So I felt like, this was, even though it was kind of like a speed bump there. It's like, oh man, that sucked. But on the whole, I think it was still good, and there was value in it.
How did the rest of the event unfold after this, subduing this individual that was causing the conflict? Did it pretty much die right then and there and continue on, or what happened after that?
I thought it calmed down for a while, and then at the end, they were very anxious for questions, the Q&A part. They really wanted that, and they got kind of fired up when the moderator kicked everything back to the legislative folks, saying, okay, talk about the things that you're coming up that next week or next couple of weeks that are really important to you. Mm-hmm. And I heard quite a bit of grumbling, like, answer our questions. And that seemed to amp people up. So I think a lot of this just was kind of an expectation that they were going to be able to do a lot more interaction than they actually got to do.
So did they or did they not get to ask questions?
There were some questions that were submitted. So, and they didn't do a ton of them, but there probably like 3 or 4 questions that were submitted, and then they were asked. They were from the audience, and because I went through those questions, and Jamie Haas, who's the chair of the legislative committee, we went through them, and frankly, a lot of the questions, I can't read people's handwriting. It's like, wow, I thought my handwriting was bad. Yikes! Yeah. They need to teach cursive again right. in school, but yeah, they were questions from the community, and they were good questions, and they went really, I think that part was good, but I think there was an expectation where people thought they're going to get to ask their legislative stuff a lot more than they actually got to.
Yeah. Going forward, what are you guys going to do different with the KCRCC? Do you think for the next month's town hall, is your approach going to be different, or what do you think is going to take place?
I'm not sure. I'm just one guy. I know the legislative committee is going to have a debrief meeting next week, and we're going to talk about these things. And then we're also having our regular monthly meeting on Tuesday. So I imagine there's going to be some discussion about this. I think there's going to be some comments and what people are thinking and what they saw and what they liked and what they didn't like. And there's always, I think all of us, we just want to do better every time. I mean, I think that's the goal, is to keep improving things, and we're going to learn from this and we're going to do better.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you being here, Mark. Feel free to stay on if you want. We may get some questions that come in that you will be qualified to answer over anybody else. Quincy, you continued to film once the protester was taken out of the auditorium. Where did you guys go after she was taken out of her seat? Kind of explain a little bit what took place from there.
Okay, yeah, sure. Real quick though, I want to go back a little bit. I got there right around 1:00, and when I got there, when I was walking up to the door, there were 2 sheriff's cars in the parking lot and 1 CBA police car.
Okay.
So
Great.
I just wanted to, kind of bring a fairness or balance to that, whatever.
Sure.
I personally didn't see any deputies inside in uniform myself. I walked past the table when I walked in, the KCRC table, and I walked past Bruce and Norris. That's who I walked past. I went inside, and that's when all this
Bruce,
took
you're
place.
talking about County Commissioner Bruce Matari, who also is a special deputy of Bob Norris Sheriff.
Well, maybe that was the deputy that was there, but he wasn't in uniform. So there we go. If you want to say that. So anyway, once they got the lady out there in the lobby, it was the same gentleman still dealing with her. Probably about 3 or 4 guys.
Gentlemen, was this a uniformed officer or
no uniform officers?
Was she ever in handcuffs?
No, I don't believe she was in handcuffs. I saw someone with zip ties, and I'm not sure if they actually got her in zip ties.
Mm-hmm.
I forget if it might be on the video, but I'm not remembering myself if they actually had zip ties on her or not. I know I saw one gentleman with zip ties. I'm not sure if he put them on her. Out there in the lobby, there's a lady right now that you guys are showing. She's in front of her face, asking her, what's her name? Does she have kids? Does she have a husband? All that type of stuff, which is honestly a leftist tactic. That's what they do. When someone's being, arrested or something like that, they'll get in front of the person's face and have that person share all their information so that they know how to get them out of jail, type of thing.
Hmm.
So that's go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So that's what was going on. And then finally, there was some CDA police, 2 of them that showed up, a lady and a male. And they started asking questions. They didn't know who these guys were. It appeared that they didn't know who the guys were that were dealing with this lady. And I know that the lady officer asked for Norris specifically. She told one of them to get Norris, and then asked for their ID. I think one of them pulled out a business card of some sort. It wasn't a badge. It was
I saw that.
It looked like it. Yeah. So. That's about all that went
Sheriff
on.
Norris was not in uniform, correct?
Correct. He was not in uniform. He was not in uniform at all.
Did he have his Cooney County Sheriff star on or any identifiers?
I don't think he even had that on, to be honest with you. I could be wrong, but I didn't see it.
I received a message from a credible source just moments ago stating that they believe from their source that the undercover / security, if you will, are KCSO deputies, unconfirmed. Some of them do look familiar to me, but again, I'd have to study that further. So I think that'll be interesting in the next couple days to learn who exactly those undercover security guys were, as well as who was paying for them. I understand that one of the reporters from Coeur d'Alene Press was injured. Can you speak to that?
I cannot speak to that.
Okay.
I don't. So,
Michael Bross, do you know anything about that?
I was told, or the MC told us, Ed, he said that someone had been injured, one of the security personnel. He didn't specify if it was a uniformed officer or if it was their security. I would like to add that there was no way to tell who the security was except for the earbuds that they were wearing.
Okay.
And the video up on the screen is one that's been put into slow motion where it shows the gal taking a bite out of his hand.
At any time, did any of you three gentlemen hear security identifying themselves as security?
No.
Quincy or Mark?
Sorry.
I'm going to bring you up.
Heard about
Yeah.
the Coeur d'Alene Press reporter is that she suffered a cut above her eye, like on her forehead or something. But and I'm not sure even how that happened, and I don't think she even knows. From what it just happened in the melee. But and then there was the bite injury where she did a Mike Tyson on the security person. But
This is the suspect that did this.
yes, allegedly.
And it's my understanding that this protester is well known in Coeur d'Alene political circles. Is that correct?
Yeah, Teresa, I think her name's Bornthal. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but yeah, I mean, she was real involved in the NIC protests that were going on, and but yeah, I think she's pretty well known.
Okay, so we don't know if medics were ever called to the scene. We don't know if anybody from fire showed up.
I don't remember seeing that, but I was inside, so I don't know what happened on the outside. So
interesting. Do we have anybody that's called back, Dawna?
I don't know actually what the technical issue is, so I kind of hesitate to request
brand new.
We
are just rolling out these online phone
I know
calls.
Ed DePriest he was there, and he actually has some really good insight into his position on why some of the things were happening that were happening, and then other intel that he has. So unfortunately
Ed, if
audio on that call.
If you're available, we'll get things figured out on our end, and we'll bring you on Wednesday if you're available on our regular live broadcast to get your thoughts and comments. We'd be more than happy to take those. But gentlemen, before we let you go, any other comments or things that you want to say in closing? Michael Bross.
Yeah, I would just add that Ed, the MC, was not very professional, and he was pretty provocative to the protesters. He really seemed to whip them up, and it was my opinion that he could have handled that more tactfully.
Yeah, I've heard that from numerous sources, and from what I heard as well, it's like he's been able to MC in front of friendly crowds his entirety. And when you are going to be an MC for an event like this, where there's going to be opposition, you probably better know your other game and how to de-escalate. Mark, what say you?
I think that's spot on. I think that it could have been handled better for sure, and. But I think we just got to learn from it. And because, we all have to live in the same community. We all have to get along. Right. And so we can't it's not productive to be disrupting meetings. It's just not helpful. I mean, we need to have conversations and be able to have those. Yeah. I mean, we're not always going to agree. I mean, I've been called every name in the book, a rhino and all these things. And it's just like, I'm not.
You're not a rhino?
I'm not. No, not at all. I mean, surprise, surprise, I'm not. And so it's just having conversations. If you talk to me, well, you'll find out that I'm not, and what I really believe. And yeah, there's going to be some agitators in the town but this is a predominantly conservative area. I mean, it just is. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some agitators running around, but they don't have the votes. Yeah. I mean, they just don't. So all they can do is disrupt and be jerks, and that doesn't help anybody. So
no, never
real problems. And yeah, we got to fix our real problems, not fight each other.
Yeah, agreed. Mark, thank you so much for joining up and for your firsthand insight. Appreciate you and the work that you're doing there with the KCRCC. Quincy, any final remarks?
I mean, I would agree with Michael and Mark, especially when it comes to the moderator up on stage. I mean, when that was happening, in my opinion, it seems like, you would have shut up instead of, I mean, because here you're looking at emotions going on from both sides. And the more you say stuff, you're also going to get people fired up that are on your side as well, which could have, if there had probably been younger people in the crowd, who knows what could have happened, because you would have got their emotions fired up against the protesters and agitators. Then there could have been something even worse, because you got two emotions taking place. I mean, he's up there saying stuff while they were trying to deal with her. He's talking, he's insulting her or whatever. I'm like, okay, it's just some words, but I mean, he's still adding fuel to the fire from the stage as a leader, as someone who's overseeing, in a way, this event. And
he
then
appeared to be taunting. He appeared to be taunting, as in, I've got a bully pulpit right now, and you suck, and I'm going to humiliate you because you dare to try to disrupt our program.
I mean, he said, I have the microphone, I'm louder. He said that.
Yeah, he did say that, right?
Yeah.
And then at the same time, I mean, if you don't, there's a ways to de-escalate it. I mean, and here's the thing: when you have that type of crowd there, you probably do want to let them have some sort of microphone presence, or to at least allow them to ask the questions. And that was completely stripped from them, to be honest.
Yeah, but in all fairness, were they not told at the very beginning how the event was going to unfold?
I can't speak for that.
Bross may be able to answer to that.
They were told. There was it wasn't open Q&A. It was pre-selected questions. I think they, had the impression that this crowd was going to be too wild to allow an open Q&A forum.
Sure.
So I want to interject, because I want to make sure that we're displaying both sides of this, and we've got some great comments coming up. Let's see, they're moving fast enough. Alicia over on Facebook says, I can't believe this horse pucky. And I can see her point here. Teresa was targeted for violent removal after an entire crowd booed school vouchers. So it's tough for Alicia to sit here and listen to the commentary from our, if you want to say, more conservative perspective. So I'm curious,
Sure.
Dan, your response to that.
Alicia, there is always two sides to every story. And I'm just reading your comments so I can make certain I'm answering it correctly. Violent removal. I would like to watch the video again to find out why she was being removed by force. I can tell you that for many, many years, as I was professionally in private security, we trained a lot on extricating people in that exact environment that would disrupt inside an auditorium, if you will. And there's a lot of other techniques that we use. So I don't know how to answer that without really going back and viewing the video in its entirety. But if at some point your friend was, and I assume she's your friend, if she was disrupting to the point where the event could not continue, then that would warrant for, hey, we've asked you a couple times. At this point, you need to come with us. But that's when I want to see not private security. I don't want to see private security going hands-on in a public forum. If this were a private event where it was non-political, then it's perfectly reasonable to remove a disruptive subject by private security. But I frankly, I'm completely shocked, and it reminds me a little bit of the January 6th debacle, where you had credible threats. We've heard about this, and Mark, I don't know if he's still on or not, but and Quincy and Michael, thank you for staying. But when you have credible threats, then you, especially as law enforcement, have to be prepared and expect that. Because your role in law enforcement, especially at these events, isn't to be physically manhandling people more than what is necessary at the moment. Because again, you're trying to de-escalate. You're attempting to, yes, you are getting your last word. In fact, we see this all the time in Senate hearings, right? You see people disrupting Senate hearings, and then you have uniforms quickly going and grabbing people and jerking them out. But yeah, we really don't want to go hands-on to our citizens unless there is no other alternative. So sometimes people do these events because they want law enforcement. They want security to put their hands on them because it gives them more of a pulpit to complain about. or it gives them an ability to sue or any other thing. But, back to, is it Andrea? I apologize. I forgot the name.
That was Alicia.
Alicia.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Alicia. So yeah, I mean, I do understand your point, and I will observe the rest of the video before I make a final judgment.
Another comment from Dusty on Facebook is that they weren't there as agitators. They were there as constituents wanting to hold their elected officials accountable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to see if we can, if Ed, can you hear us? Can we hear you? I tried.
So one thing I wanted to add, guys, is that I felt like it was way too rough when they dragged her out. I mean, I just felt like, they kind of took her clothes off as they're pulling her, and it's like, wow. And it felt over the top. It really did. It was like, this is where we're at. And it was literally 2 feet away from me as I'm watching this. And it's like, we're really doing this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe, I was like, wow.
Let's go ahead and watch that. I want to watch this video, Mark, while you're talking and explaining that. Let's watch so everybody can see what you're talking about. I want to see how this unfolded. So
that's a shorter clip where it's showing the pushing and shoving and.
Okay. Go ahead, Mark, and continue.
Yeah,
we're just going to roll
about 4 or 5 of them, and they were just kind of trying to get her out, and she was not, complying with that. But it was just, I felt that it was too rough, and I will not be shocked if there's lawsuits filed. I just won't be, because we live in a litigious society, and people like to sue, and it's like, to me, it's the liability here, and not even knowing who these people are, it's like, wow, it's disturbing, and it scared people. I mean, I saw after this happened, there was about 500 people to start. I'd say 150 left right after this. And there were people with kids, small kids, preteens and teens, and they were afraid. And I really felt that we were teetering on a riot. I mean, it was, one of the other commenters earlier said, Ed was, the MC was inflaming people, and we're lucky that it didn't go worse. Right. Yeah. I mean, it was like, wow, this is going to explode into a really bad situation. And here I am right in the middle of it. And yikes. And so it felt surreal. And, I don't think people should be disrupting, but I don't think they should be, hogtied and carried out like that either. I think that's wrong. So.
Yeah, we're getting a bunch of comments up here, and I'm going to try to hit them as we go through. I did not see the beginning of that video, once again, to look at the techniques. I know that when I was trained, and we would do some extractions once in a while, and I didn't see the beginning of this, hopefully Dawna can find it, we would try to clear everybody out of the row in order to be able to gain enough access to try to convince the disruptive individual just to kind of come walk with us without having to go hands on. Bree, you said concerning mob behavior, it's only okay when MAGA does that. If I got you correctly, I got short-term memory issues. No, mobs are never okay. You say, let's see. So it's okay when ultra MAGA incites mob behavior, but not when liberals do it. Nope. It is not okay at any time for anybody to become disruptive. We are guaranteed peaceful assembly. So I do not condone any kind of behavior that invokes disruption or bad physical behavior. Let's see. Angie Lamassa, Jeff Tyler. Exactly. It's impossible to bring.
She was just responding to Jeff. Yeah.
All right. We had a couple other right before. I'm trying to read these. These are going too fast. I think that to the point, the security again, what was said did not look well trained. I'm just seeing it right now. So give me a second while we watch through this.
There's something I want to add about the security. Before people started filming, the protesters were they're very disruptive, and they did get several verbal warnings by security. Security did seem to show a good amount of patience and restraint with them until they just got out of hand.
Okay. Yeah. So what I just saw there is what does appear somebody that has not had proper training techniques for extraditing somebody from a seat. But yeah, I guess the after action reports will, once all the details are there and we can review it, all we can go off of is what we observe now. And yeah, I was frustrated for the past 4 years, and frankly longer than that, when it seems that those that are holding the majority power at any given time tend to have that heavy thumb and don't want others to be able to air their side. I mean, this is U.S. politics 101, so I do understand that. And I think it's a good reminder that those that are conservative, it's okay to say, look, we are going to have order in our events, and we are not going to allow disruptors. And if you want to voice your opinion, then we will give you the time to do it in the format that everybody else does. You're not going to get special attention. But I think that one of the things that we lack often as conservatives is we don't have enough empathy for those. Understand that in our world today, we are polarized in our worldviews. And just because we believe our worldview is right, we have to understand that there are those that don't believe the same. However, we all play by the same rules. And so it's never acceptable for any kind of disruption or violence on any side. And I would not go to a Democrat event and disrupt it myself. I would want to respectfully try to get my point across. And I do agree. I think that having been a candidate and at town halls, look, I can take questions off the cuff as good as anybody can. But sometimes in an orderly standpoint, because some people don't shut up. It's all about them. They want to give you their entire background as to why, their question is the most important question. Get to your point and ask the question. So sometimes I believe that having it in writing is the best format to do these things.
So, Michael, you said you were there from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Did they announce it from the stage? I mean, since I guess if they knew that there was a possibility of disruptors or whatever, or differences of opinion, did they announce anything from the stage? Like, if this happens, you're going to be asked to leave?
No, they did say from the start there was security present, but like I said, the security was not identified. They should have been identified, and I think going forward that should be a requirement.
Well, yeah, I mean, that should have been identified, but there also, like Dan's saying, there should have been some ground rules, especially if you're knowing people from a different, point of view or, opposition, however you want to say it, are going to show up and be in attendance. There should have been something addressed from the get-go, from the stage, more than likely, probably from a law enforcement person, to be honest.
Agreed.
We're getting some great comments here from Bennett Jess. Dan, it was open to the public, regardless of voting history. We are all constituents. Yeah, you're not hearing me say otherwise. I completely agree. However, again, whether it is conservatives going to Democrat events, somebody just waxed on and said, well, there are none of those here in Kootenai County. But
yeah, that was Kelsey was chiming in. You don't go to Democratic events because, drum roll please, we don't have any Democratic elected officials. It's not about party. It's about communication from constituents.
But again, you have to have orderliness. And I look, we'll play here in a second. And if any of you guys got to drop off, go ahead. We're probably not going to belabor this too much longer. But, I've had my issues with Ed. Ed is a hack. As far as I'm concerned,
specify
personally,
who you're talking about.
Ed Baharana, the MC, is a hack. I had to deal with him at I guess it was a candidate town hall forum last year. As soon as he came up to me before the event, he wanted to let me know that I was not to talk about the opponent, Bob Norris, at all. I was only to talk about me and what I was going to bring to the table. Same format. They wrote questions down on cards. He was the MC. I was the only one of the, at that time, 3 or 4 candidates to show up. And he didn't even give me the full time slot. And he chose questions that were not really sheriff questions, but he left the questions that were great questions for the sheriff out. And at the same time, while he was telling me, beforehand, don't talk bad about your opponent, don't say anything about him, he asks me continual questions about Bob Norris. And I think we have a video we're going to play here in a second. So, my personal belief, and Ed Bajarana, I don't really care whether or not you get your panties in a twist. You are a terrible MC. I think that what you did, from what I observed, is amateurish. I think that you should never be allowed to MC one of these events again. And I think that you did your one and done. I think there should have been your ability as an orator, a self-described orator, should have been able to lower the temperature of the room. And I will hold you predominantly responsible for the fact that it escalated to the point that it did. So if we get that one video,
and
let's
just
go ahead
to clarify
and
too, Dan is speaking of Ed Bajarana, who was the MC at today's legislative town hall held at Coeur d'Alene High School, sponsored by the Kootenai County Republican Central Committee, which is why we're now referencing that Ed Bajarana has in the past MC'd these sorts of events, not always with KCRCC, but he travels in those conservative circles and will MC for these events. Yeah. So now the clip.
This evening.
Bob is the best sheriff I think any county in America could have. I know Bob personally. I've seen him work professionally. This is a man who puts community first. He's just a dynamite individual, yet he's open to creative ideas. He's brought some energy to our community and our county that I don't think any other county gets to experience.
Does that mean he's earned your vote?
He absolutely has earned my vote. Just wrote him a check, too, so yeah.
Yeah, and I want to point out, big spender Ed gave Norris $100 from his consulting company. But Ed really, I can understand why the Darlings want him there, but really, there's so many others that could have done a far better job. Let's see, Alicia. Dan, wake up. Local extremist conservatives bring guns to liberal events regularly. We have to make safety plans with law enforcement, and you know that. Y'all can stop drawing guns over some booze over policy. Frankly, Alicia, I don't know what the hell you're saying. What is your point? If you just want to rant that you don't like right-wing people, okay, cool. It's your First Amendment right. But frankly, I disagree with what you're asserting, and you can continue down that route, or we can have a civil conversation and discuss the behavior on both sides and what is not acceptable.
Well, we got lots. There you go.
You notice it was all men attacking women. Bueller. Well, attacking. What is your definition of attacking? Would be my response. I don't know that there was an attack. Maybe putting hands on and removing somebody disruptive. Again, until I see the entirety, I'm speculating. So, Alicia, we had 75 people show up to Pride with loaded firearms. Do you read the newspaper? Well, Alicia, not only do I read the newspaper, but I have a lot of conversations with people on both sides. And I absolutely know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that there were those that were pro-Pride that showed up with firearms as well. So, yeah, I absolutely do read. And if you want to incite this argument that somehow you guys are being unfairly treated, okay, good on you.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. Some of the comments that are being left, which please, questions, comments, you can put those into the comment section. Some of them are responses to other people that are in there, and they're not all directly comments or questions necessarily to you. So it's kind of hard to get those linearly.
Except for when they say
order.
Dan.
And they say
do you
Dan.
read newspapers? Well, I can. Not only do I read newspapers, but I also read online quite a bit.
And
too.
Alicia says, excellent. Thanks for agreeing that conservatives act up at liberal events.
Well, you guys all act up at everybody's events. That's kind of what Americans do. But as long as you do it within the rule of law, we're all good. Again, I believe in 2022 when we had the Pride event down in Coeur d'Alene, the sheriff should have set the example by running down there and telling both sides, hey, you both have your First Amendment rights to be here and peacefully protest. But if one of you on either side, doesn't matter, crosses that line, then you will be arrested and you will be charged and dealt with accordingly. So, look, you got a First Amendment right. All my friends out there that are of the liberal persuasion, you have protected rights, and it has to be done, though, under the right setting. You have to do it in an orderly, professional format. And there's just, it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, whether you are pro or against, whatever it is, you got to do it peacefully.
Now, there was a question earlier in the program because you had run for sheriff up against incumbent Bob Norris in the last election. And there was somebody that was genuinely asking, if you were in office, how would you have prepared for today's event differently and or handled it differently once it was unfolding?
Armchair quarterbacking right now. So full disclosure or disclaimer. I would have most likely talked with the event coordinators, which would have included Mark and his group, and I would have put a lot of uniformed deputies and Coeur d'Alene PD. Now, probably would have cost because it's an extra duty. So there would have been some cost to the KCRCC, but I definitely would have put a lot of uniforms in there, and I would have made certain that the MC had the ground rules, and the ground rules were also up on a screen for people to see, so that those that want to be heard, which I want you all to get a chance to be heard, to your state legislators, because guess what? I don't agree with everything that the legislators do, nor do you. And I should have the right, just like you should have the right, to ask them publicly about a position. But I think that what it looks like right now from what we're seeing, again, speculation based off of the reports that we've heard, the videos that we have seen to date, some of the comments of those that were right then and there, is that there were undercover security, not uniformed. Their presence was made known, but it doesn't look like they were necessarily trained for these types of events. And it looks like things got chaotic. So I think that we can learn from this. And this is the best part, as Mark said, we can learn to do this better, because as conservatives, our standard should be way up here. Way up here. We should anticipate predominantly when chaos erupts, it's predominantly those that are of the more liberal or Democratic side. Predominantly, not always. So you understand that that's going to happen. You understand that we have a new president that's in office and the country is divided, and you're going to have some very, very passionate people. They deserve to have their rights to come and talk with their representatives. But all these things will allow us going forward to learn from it and make these events safer. Families should never be fearful coming to an event like this with their families. As Mark pointed out earlier, there was families there with their children that had to get up and leave. Unacceptable. So I'm excited to see how going forward they're going to change maybe some of the format. And I have high hopes that we've learned from some things from this.
I want to thank Quincy. Go ahead.
Yes, I'd like to add. I know I think it was Alicia, and I'm not trying to. You can stop me if you want, but I've been here, a little while. I have yet to see any myself, if you want to say Democratic or liberal events myself, where people from the right or conservative Republicans have shown up to their event. So if there is some, let me know, because I'll come and film for you. Because I haven't seen none. Just throwing that out there myself.
No. Yeah, that's good.
Great point. I guess it would probably be a far different cry if we were in downtown Portland right now. The tables would probably be slightly turned. Yeah. But no, at the end of the day,
it would have been ugly if it would have been downtown Portland. That would have been ugly today. So
at the end of the day, all my friends, and you are my friends, you don't have to believe the same worldview that I do, but you are an American. You are a Kootenai County citizen, and I respect you as such. I want the best for all of you, and I want the best for our community, because if our community gets divided, it does nothing for the good of those of us that reside here. We've got a lot of things to be discussing over the next several months, how our government is run, how it's funded, and I think that we're going to have plenty of opportunity to come together respectfully in a format where everybody can be heard. And that is what my encouragement is to the KCRCC and to the Democrat Central Committee. Look, we don't have to agree, but we can at least agree that we are fellow citizens, and we do have to have discussions, respectful discussions to each other. So appreciate all of you tuning in tonight. Thank you to our guests, Mark Stewart, Quincy Franklin, BC Preacher, Michael Bross, Ed Dupree. Sorry that we weren't able to get the phones to work. Hopefully you can join us this Wednesday on our weekly live broadcast. Remember, we did not descend from fearful men. We descended from men who understood the times, they acted accordingly, and they dedicated their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. It's up to you now to carry on that tradition. If you believe in something passionately, learn how to articulate it without violence to those that are in your community. Stay strong and courageous. May God bless you all. We'll see you soon.
Thanks to those of you who contributed to the conversation, submitted your video footage that we were able to share on the program tonight. This is the Liberty Without Compromise live stream broadcast, a special edition. Visit our website to watch past episodes and view exclusive reports on Kootenai County political power players at libertywithoutcompromise.com. And for our podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Until next time.